Hello, 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 and welcome to our nursing news you can use live at 5. I'm Tina Baxter, your host, and I'm going to go ahead and just play our little promo here for our Baxter Professional Services Health Education. .com. So I had a lot of fun doing that. So I just wanted to let you know I had a lot of fun doing those things, and I thought this is a more creative way of doing our announcements. It's just kind of showing you what we do at Baxter Professional Services. And again, it looks like Facebook is acting up. I'm going to go ahead and check this out. Hold on one second. Okay. And I'm going to add them back in one by one. All right. So those of you who are watching, I don't know what's been happening, but our Facebook links, for whatever reason, Facebook seems to be having a problem every time we go live using our StreamYard. And I think it has something to do with Facebook's or Meta's, whatever they're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and just add this to the stage. So as I was saying, that's kind of my fun way of putting in our announcements that we do have a basic life support CPR classes available through Baxter Professional Services Health Education, and you can register at Baxter Professional Services Health Education.com. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our affirmations for today. Our first affirmation: I rest well, I sleep peacefully, and I awaken with joy. I rest well, I sleep peacefully, and I awaken with joy. Our next affirmation: I rejoice in my ability to adapt easily to the ebb and flow of life. I rejoice in my ability to adapt easily to the ebb and flow of life. And lastly, I attract only healthy relationships. I am always treated well. I attract only healthy relationships. I am always treated well. Those are our daily affirmations coming from the I Can Do It Louise Hay 365-day calendar, as you can see here. That was given to me by a great friend. And so those are our affirmations for this year. All right, let me put this off to the side. Let's go ahead and get into our news, and we'll have more announcements coming towards the end because I do want to announce some things that I'm excited about. So here we go. All right, let's get into the news. Here's our first story coming out of the Iowa Dispatch. And there's been a similar bill that has passed in Ohio. And so now Iowa is also picking this up. And I thought this was interesting. And I want to share it with you. And it says, bill allowing cameras in nursing homes advances with no industry opposition. An Iowa subcommittee unanimously advanced a bill that would allow surveillance cameras in residents' rooms in nursing homes. 8 months ago, nursing home lobbyists said they'd work this year to kill legislation allowing cameras in nursing homes, but on Tuesday, they were neutral on the idea. The bill in question, House File 537, would prevent nursing homes from prohibiting the use of so-called granny cams that provide families with, excuse me, let me make this a little bit smaller. There we go. With a video feed of the activity inside a resident's room. For residents who reside in a shared room, the roommate would have to agree to the use of the camera, and a notice posted on the door would alert visitors and staff to the presence of the camera. And that's similar to the Ohio bill that passed. For the past several years, the bill has faced stiff opposition from the nursing home industry and hasn't advanced. On Tuesday, however, the three-member House Health and Human Services Appropriations Subcommittee unanimously agreed to forward the bill for consideration by the full committee. So it hasn't been adopted yet, but it is going on to the full committee. It further says that at Tuesday's meeting, Brent Willett, the head of the Iowa Healthcare Association, which lobbies lawmakers on behalf of nursing homes, told representatives that IHCA took no position on the bill in 2023 and that it remains neutral on the bill in 2024. So we'll see what happens with this legislation. There's more to this story if you want to read more about it. Particularly those of you that are in Iowa, this may be of interest to you. But we'll keep an eye on this legislation because I imagine that similar bills will be proposed in other states. So we'll keep an eye on what happens with this. All right. Here's another story. Let's see. This is coming out of Newburyport. This is the Newburyport News. It says AGH nurses and management can't reach a deal. Contract negotiations between Anna Jacques Hospital nurses and management remained at a standstill after the latest meeting Wednesday ended with both sides leaving the bargaining table without a new deal. So that was last week. This is on January 19th, according to the union and the hospital spokesperson. While we had hoped to reach an agreement on Wednesday, the Massachusetts Nurses Association is still seeking numerous economic changes beyond the significant improvements we made in proposed terms and stated that it would not agree to extend the contract while we continue to bargain in good faith, according to Anne Jacques spokesperson Sonia Vartabedian. The nurses union fired back, accusing hospital administrators of refusing to budge on contract talks unless the nurses scale back their salary requests. Vartabedian countered by saying that MNA did not provide a counterproposal on wages. It was impossible to update other economic terms. So Vartabedian goes on to say a sustainable contract requires that we consider the full financial impact of all economic terms together. Nurses at the Beth Israel LaHaye Health Center affiliated hospital have been working without a contract since the new year began and will spend much of 2023 speaking out against what they consider poor working conditions. So they're supposed to come back and talk on January the 31st. So as of yet, they've not have called for any type of strike. However, the nurses union did vote for a 99% overwhelmingly in October to authorize a strike if contract negotiations with the hospitals remained unresolved by the time the contract ended on December 31st. Despite that, nurses have agreed to a temporary contract extension and have remained on the job as negotiations continue with the aid of federal mediators. As mandated by law, the hospital would have a 10-day notification period if the union were to issue an official notice to strike. So we'll see what happens and kind of follow this. Just a little bit more. This is what the nurses this is what the hospital said that they are part of their proposal. Nurses working 36 hours a week would receive the following. A nurse with 20 years of experience would see their hourly rate increase from $57.53 to $73.34, with a base annual salary, excluding any differentials or overtime, of $137,292. Okay. A nurse with 15 years of experience would see their hourly rate increase from $49.45 to $60.28, with a base annual salary, excluding differentials, to $112,884. A nurse with 5 years of experience would see their hourly rate go from $37.57 to $40.72, which means their base rate annual salary would be $76,227. So this is what was proposed. It says nurses hit the picket line March 9th, unhappy the hospital management failed to take any meaningful steps to address their concerns, and were joined by the representative from American Federation of Teachers in Amberley and Lawrence, the North Shore Central Labor Council in Lynette, and Merrimack Valley Central Labor Council in Lowell. So this is where some of those questions become, because apparently the nurses from Anna Jax are among the lowest paid in the region, and they're 15 to 28% of other hospitals in Boston. So we'll see what happens. I'd have to say, though, from good old Indiana, you know, and I'm not sure what the cost of living. You have to look at all that and Boston. But I'm saying for good old Indiana, yeah, that looks pretty good to me. But what do y'all say? Because yeah, I'd like to see that. I'm looking at that 137,000. Yeah, they're making more. I'm sorry, but compared to Indiana, you're making more than some nurse practitioners. Just saying. So I mean, there's other things to consider, and I fully support them in what they're trying to do. But nursing wages are low across the country, I have to say, and so you have to take into consideration, just in the case of Hawaii, cost of living, and so California, cost of living. I mean, I was just talking to someone, and they were saying that in California, to buy a house, you're looking at a 2-bedroom place like $1.5 million. So cost of living. So you need to look at those things. And so I understand that, but I also know that, yeah, nurses deserve better. All right, let's move on. Okay, so let's see here. I want to get to this article. This is coming from Indiana Business Journal. So we're talking to home now. And it says, Indiana lawmakers want to streamline licensing requirements during nursing shortage. Okay. So it says House Bill 1259 makes the only requirement for instructors for instructors a nursing license, eliminating the 18-month minimum on clinical experience needed. So Indiana needs more nursing school graduates to meet the state's current healthcare needs, but nursing schools say they don't have enough faculty. And I can tell you one of the reasons why you don't have enough faculty is because nursing schools, they don't pay as well as the private sector in bedside nursing. And so I'm going to tell you, that's part of the reason is that, those tenure positions and all that in nursing schools, a lot of them do not pay. And most of the time they bring you on as adjunct faculty. So then you don't actually get the chance for tenure, but that's a whole other thing to argue. But anyway, we do need more nursing graduates. We know that. So House Committee passed a bill to remove the clinical experience requirement for instructors to help meet those needs. Ugh. So you're going to have people that haven't had any practice trying to teach new nurses how to do yeah. Okay. So I want to know what you're thinking. Let me know, nurses out there. What do you think about this? So House Bill 1259 makes the only requirement for instructors a nursing license, eliminating the 18-month minimum on clinical experience needed. The bill's author, House Public Health Committee Chair Brad Barrett, Republican from Richmond, said the institutions are, quote, best equipped to judge who has the experience to educate nursing students. Now, I will say this, okay? I don't think I would put someone in a position to do clinical instructing and being out on the floor if you're just learning how to be a nurse yourself. So I am hoping that nursing schools have some backbone and some way to make sure the right person is training, because we're seeing that in the hospitals already, where nurses who don't have enough experience, like, hey, I've been here for 6 months, I got experience now, I've only been a nurse for 6 months, but I'm training you to do the job, that kind of thing. So it's kind of scary when you think about that, and that's what's been happening. So we've seen that on the bedside. So now the concern is having instructors there that may not have enough experience. And can you imagine learning your craft yourself and then having to teach others? That can be a scary proposition. So I'm just curious how this will come out. But anyway, let's get back into it. So Jason Gilbert, IU Health's chief nurse executive, said it employed more than 1,000 traveling nurses and has historically high vacancy rates across Indiana. So while we have not closed beds and in many cases have expanded access to care, I continue to worry about being able to sustain healthcare access because of our workforce shortages. Gilbert said this bill would eliminate barriers to licensing in the state. The CEO of Indiana State Nurses Association testified our membership is divided on the issue, which is probably true. The bill also allows the State Board of Nursing to issue licenses to registered nurses from other countries by examination, not just endorsement. Nursing associations say the state's process creates barriers for licensing qualified nurses from other countries. So we'll see. So a House committee passed a bill to remove the clinical experience requirement for instructors to help meet those needs. Okay. Other sections of the bill affect other faculty requirements for nursing schools and allow those with a student permit to perform certain respiratory care procedures on children. I'm not sure what that means. A majority of the discussion on the bill was focused on addressing the nursing shortage. Before voting yes, Representative Matt Hollister, Republican for Patoka, I don't even know where that is in Indiana, raised concerns over what might be causing the nursing shortage. He said more than 100,000 nurses in the country have left the industry since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't know why that is, but I think that's something the industry needs to look at, Hostler said. It seems like they drove a bunch out and now they want to replace them with other people. The bill passed unanimously out of the House Public Health Committee, so we'll keep an eye on that bill and see what happens. Have you ever thought about asking the nurses here in Indiana? This is where I can on my soapbox. Call up your state legislature and who's representing you. If they have a question about what's driving the nurses out, let's let them know it's not just the pandemic, the P word. It's more than that. That was just the tip of the iceberg. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say. But let them know, because they're like, we don't know what causes nurses to leave. Well, I do. How about violence against healthcare workers? How about that? How about low staffing and unsafe conditions? How about that? How about low wages, mandatory overtime, unnecessary prosecution of nurses, and the targeting of nurses? Now, there's a whole lot that's driving nurses from the bedside. So I think what they need to do is talk to more nurses. Ask them. If you want to know the answers, ask the people that it affects. Just saying. Anyway, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll go on. Okay, this is a story about Kaiser from the Courthouse News Service. It says Kaiser aims for mediation to avoid nurses' $45.1 million retaliation award. Let's talk about it. This is in LA, Los Angeles. Kaiser Permanente, which operates 40 hospitals, predominantly in the Western United States, is hoping for mediation to avoid paying an unprecedented $41.5 million in damages that a jury awarded to a nurse who claims she was fired for raising too many concerns about patient safety. All right, let's get into this one. Attorneys for the nurse, Maria Gatchalian, convinced jurors at the Los Angeles Superior Court last month that the healthcare juggernaut was compromising patient care with cost-cutting and understaffing. She says she was terminated for spurious reasons because she continued to speak up about problems at the hospital even after her supervisors told her not to. So David De Rupertus, one of her lawyers, says, your voice, your verdict, it might be able to change Kaiser. It might be able to tell this healthcare corporation and insurance company that the quality of care and the protection of those with the courage to speak out on the quality of care matters more than the business side of what medicine and health insurance has become today. Those words clearly resonated with the jury, who took only a few hours to return a verdict awarding Gatchlin, I'm sorry I pronounced your name wrong, 2.5 million for the past and future lost earnings, 9 million for past and future emotional distress. And after finding that Kaiser had acted with malice, another 30 million in punitive damages, culminating in an unheard of amount of damages for a wrongful termination lawsuit that meant to send a message. Wow. So following the December 11th jury verdict, Kaiser Foundation Hospitals and Kaiser Foundation Health Plan, the two Kaiser Permanente entities on the hook for the damages, have brought in a new set of lawyers from the white shoe law firm Gibson Dunn. In conjunction with the plaintiff's attorneys, the group has asked the judge to delay entry of judgment while they sit down with a mediator. Given the verdict's unprecedented price tag, both sides are willing to pursue a post-trial settlement because the stakes have become significantly higher for them in further litigation. So, according to Ben Fenton, a litigator at Fenton Law Group in LA, who specializes in healthcare industry disputes, says there are a lot of moving pieces, but with an award this size, there's a bigger chance the judge will reduce it. Maybe Kaiser didn't look at the case in the right way from the start and didn't realize the strength of the plaintiff's claims. The judge could slash the jury award pursuant to any Kaiser post-trial motions, or it could be reversed on appeal. In addition, the plaintiff may prefer a smaller payout now than to wait for years as the case winds its way through the appellate process. Okay. Typically, a defendant will try to persuade the trial judge after the verdict that the jury's damages award wasn't supported by the evidence, or that the punitive damages are out of proportion to the compensatory damages. For Kaiser, aside from the negative publicity, the risk is that the judge will deny its request to modify or vacate the damages, and that the Court of Appeals will see no compelling reason to overturn the jury's findings. Plus, the healthcare giant will likely have to pay its new high-end lawyers a not insignificant amount of money to litigate the verdict post-trial and on appeal. So according to Fitney, said there must have been some pretty egregious evidence to support the retaliation claim. So Gatchalian, 63 years old at the time, she sued Kaiser in 2021, had been working at Kaiser Permanente Hospital in Woodland Hills, California for over 30 years when she was fired in June of 2019. So she had been there for 30 years. Let's think about that. She was 63, close to retire. Let's think about that. Okay. A patient's purported family member secretly took a picture of her taking a break in a recliner meant for patients or their families in the hospital neonatal intensive unit with her bare feet on the isolate and enclosed incubator holding a sick newborn. The anonymous individual, who Gatchalian's attorneys say was likely a Kaiser employee, filed a complaint. According to Kaiser, Gatchalian initially lied about the incident during a fact-finding meeting to investigate the complaint. However, the nurse claimed that there was more at work here. Gatchalian claimed she was fired in retaliation for raising numerous issues related to patient safety at the hospital. For one, Kaiser's management lost no time investigating her violation of its policies and firing Gatchalian, whereas according to her lawyers, months might pass before anything happened with other complaints where nurses were photographed acting inappropriately. Moreover, the hospital's chief nurse executive admitted on the stand that she didn't know of any other nurse getting fired for a single dress code violation or a single violation of Kaiser's infection control policies. The real reason she was immediately fired, in spite of her 30 years of solid performance, Gatchalan's attorney said during the trial was that she had continued to file so-called, quote, unusual occurrences reports to her supervisors in spite of repeatedly being told by the hospital's chief nurse executive didn't want too many of them. He says her reports opened up a can of worms. If they dealt with her reports the right way, they had to look under the hood. But the thing is, they don't want to look under the hood because they knew what was under the hood. They were cutting costs, and that was a problem. Ooh. So there's a lot to this story. I could read. I mean, this is several pages long, but and I haven't gotten the actual litigation in the court transcripts or anything like that. But we'll see what happens with this. I was like, okay, 30 years, 30 years. She was working at that place. And this is how they treat you. Okay. This is another interesting article, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but I just thought this was kind of interesting the way it was brought out, so I thought I'd go ahead and share it. This says Lincolnshire nursing home accused by widow of neglecting patient's wounds contributing to his death. So this is in Lincolnshire, Illinois. A suburban woman says improper care at an area nursing home may have contributed to the horrible infection in her husband's legs. He died 2 weeks later at an area hospital. The reason why I bring this up is because this is the same nursing home that we have reported previously that had major staffing problems. So the same facility faced separate complaints about a major staff shortage in May, which left the seniors at the facility without medical care for several hours last year when new management took over. So remember, we reported on that, and that's why I'm bringing this out. Diane Livy believes her husband's wounds were not properly cared for after that new management started. Lively says her husband David was her best friend and love of her life. When she first moved her husband to Wellshire Warren Bar Nursing Home, she said his leg wounds from diabetes were being treated properly. Then in May of 2023, the nursing home changed owners and was renamed Wellshire Center of Excellence. Okay. When this other organization, Wellshire, took over, everything was dropped. I mean, they didn't seem to take care of him, she said. Lively claims that the new staff was not properly cared for her husband's wounds. She was also alarmed by another incident on May 1st, the exact day the ownership changed. Families and residents called police and state officials and said that there were not enough medical staff on site to care for the 108 residents. A state report obtained by the I-team said that there was no medical director on staff and no licensed nursing in the building from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. So 2 hours, they had no medical director and no licensed nurses. Multiple residents were taken to the hospital or home by family due to the lack of care. It is also said some patients did not receive their morning medications. A nursing home spokesperson told the I-team in May that it was, quote, cooperating with the Illinois Department of Public Health review. The facility is fully staffed and meets all state requirements for care. So IDPH said the investigation was not concluded and that there was, quote, there was notice of violation for violations, including failing to have adequate nursing staff. They added that the maximum fine could be $25,000, but that won't be determined until enforcement proceeding is completed. So several weeks after that staffing issue, Lively's husband was taken to the hospital for, quote, confusion and paranoia. At the hospital, Lively said that the husband's leg wounds were so bad that you could see discharge and his bones. A hospital report states he was diagnosed with lower extremity cellulitis and sepsis and treated with broad-spectrum antibiotics, which is, what happens when you have sepsis. Lively said he died 2 weeks later. The death certificate lists acute respiratory failure as the immediate cause of death, with sepsis as one of the number of other contributing factors. So that's very unfortunate, but I'm bringing that up because, we reported on this earlier, and I thought, well, this is kind of circling back to what happened, and that's a shame. So we'll see what happens in this case if anything else happens, but That's why I brought that up. All right, so our next story is coming out of Yahoo Finance, and I thought this was kind of interesting for those of you that are travel nurses. It says per diem nurse staffing market to surge to US dollar 13.58 billion by 2030, driven by demand in in-home care services and hospital settings. The global per diem nursing staff market by service, emergency department home care services, end user hospitals, independent clinics, and nursing homes forecast for 2024 to 2030 report has been added to the researchandmarketing.com's offering. The latest research publication detailing the critical analysis and growth projections within the per diem nurse staffing market has now been included in our rich online report repository, according to them. Presenting an in-depth look into this dynamic sector, the report estimates that its valuation to potentially soar as high as 13.58 billion by the year 2030, escalating from 9 billion in 2023. The extensive report is a vital resource capturing the essence of per diem nurse staffing market, characterized by service offerings such as emergency department home care services, as well as its nuanced applications across various end user segments, including hospitals, independent clinics, and nursing homes. So just to kind of get you in there, hey, may still be a good time to be a traveler. We'll see. All right, let's move on. Okay. Oh yes, I wanted to get to this story. This one I just found. This is a Miami Herald. Let's think about this. It says they studied, passed the exam, but were denied nursing licenses. Is Florida at fault? Remelia Farinas moved to Miami from the Dominican Republic 10 years ago, hoping to expand the healthcare career that she'd been preparing for since childhood. After working for several years as a certified nursing assistant and a patient care technician, she was encouraged by her employer to take the national exam to become a registered nurse, a natural career step. To prepare, she enrolled in Universal Career School, a private for-profit outfit. While preparing for motherhood, she was 6 months pregnant. She took the exam and passed. Her co-workers threw a party. The celebration was short-lived. Despite passing the national nursing exam, called the NCLEX, she would not be getting her license due to a bureaucratic standoff between two states, Florida, where she went to school, and New York, whose online portal administered the test. Florida's Department of Health would not discuss the matter with the Miami Herald. The school in Sweetwater is of no help. It's closed, its office is abandoned, its website defunct, and she now owes $20,000 in student loans. So there's a picture here of the former location that's now defunct. Farinas is the latest example of how students can get burned attending private for-profit schools, which in some cases can have shaky accreditations and disappear overnight. The Herald spoke to 8 women who are struggling with similar problems, leaving them in limbo, owing thousands. It's happening at a time when nurses are in short supply. According to nurse.org, a clearinghouse for those in the profession, Florida is in the top 5 states projected to have the largest shortage of nurses. Among the women is Yaomi Perez, 40, who graduated from Miami Regional University in May 2022. Although she lives in Miami, she too took the test through the New York online portal, passing in 2023. New York is a popular option, especially among test takers for whom English is not their first language. The test is hard enough for native speakers, but can be even harder for those who sometimes struggle with English. New York offers test takers unlimited opportunities to pass. Florida offers just 3. The state that administers the test issues the license. Either way, at the end of the process, the nurses should be able to practice the profession in Florida. When Perez inquired with the New York State Education Department about her licensing status, it sent an email that she was on hold because her school's licensure status was probationary, as indicated on the Florida Department of Health list of nursing programs. It didn't matter that the U.S. Department of Education's database of accredited post-secondary institutions and programs said the school was fully accredited. The probationary status in Florida meant New York would not issue her the license. Unlike Universal Career School, Miami Regional University is still in business. In a statement, Miami Regional University pointed out that its nursing programs are accredited by the Accreditation Commission for Education and Nursing. The university highlighted the COVID-19 pandemic's negative impact on its associate nursing program test scores, but stressed that its most recent passage rates have shown significant improvement. We are aware of New York State's blanket policy banning licensure of out-of-state students as a result of investigations in other schools in Florida, and we advise all graduating students about the current situation in New York. A native of Cuba, Perez moved to Miami 8 years ago. She is currently unemployed as she tries to determine the best route around her current predicament. Universal Career School closed shortly after Farina's graduated in the spring of 2022. Now 40, she's become interested in medicine at a young age, attending a specialized high school for nursing in her rural hometown before moving to Santo Domingo to attend university. While studying medicine, she met her future husband, Edgar, who was visiting from Miami, and the two married and moved stateside. Farinas began working as a certified nursing assistant at the Palace at Coral Gables, a high-end independent assisted living community. So she decided to go to school. It looked like she went to school, and so she decided to take the NCLEX. After graduating from the program, she sat for the nursing exam through the New York portal at the testing site in Doral in March of 23. She passed, but became concerned when after a month she hadn't received her license. She reached out to the New York State Education Department. A customer service representative told her the department was investigating her alma mater and that her license was on hold. This information stunned Farinas because she had submitted her transcripts to the department in advance, a prerequisite for sitting for the exam. She said, "Why didn't you give me that information ahead of time so I could decide if I would take the test or not with the state? It's unfair and frustrating." A letter to Farinas from the New York State Education Department said the Florida State Department of Health and Florida State Board of Nursing had terminated her school's program in June of 2021. It noted that Farina's transcript indicated that she completed her coursework at the supposedly terminated program in the fall of 2021 and that she graduated on February 28th of 2022. Since your education has not been approved, you should not have been eligible for the NCLEX exam. Eligible or not, she passed on her second try. Farinas told the Herald that during the last few months of her enrollment, the administrator told her that the school was going to close, but she was never informed of any prior termination of the nursing program. The other women who spoke to the Herald said they were similarly blindsided. This is a very sad case, and there's more stuff coming, out of there. So, State Representative Anna Escamani, an Orlando Democrat, believed that the onus is on the Florida government officials to offer these women a path forward. Students who have completed their coursework and passed required examinations, she said, should not be punished due to a lack of accountability and oversight within the state's for-profit college system. The Florida Department of Health's failure to either notify students of their colleges changing accreditation status or provide them with a transitional plan exacerbates these issues. At the very least, there has to be accountability to get their money back from these institutions that have lied to them. So I'm going to say this, yes. And I agree. Some of these schools have, these for-profit schools, you have to be very careful. Do your homework. If it seems to be too good to be true, it probably is. How long have they been in business? Check their accreditation status. Are they in good standing? Check their NCLEX passage rate. again, this is all the stuff that came out of Operation Nightingale as well, too. So you've seen that. We've covered those stories. I feel sorry for these women that have gone to school. They've done what they're supposed to do, taken the classes, passed, taken the NCLEX and passed, and now they're being held up from their license exam. Um, Farina feels like she didn't have access to her passing score, but she's considered retaking the exam in Florida. But she says that it's costly. So my heart goes out to them. Hopefully, we can do better. All right. So let's get on a couple of things that I like to call, these are nurses that are doing big things, or nurses that are making a difference. So this is our story for a nurse doing a big thing. And we have former nurse runs for the Park City Board of Education. I always like to support nurses that are doing things in their community. So this is from parkrecord.com. I just thought this was great. It says Susan Goldberg, aiming to unseat incumbent Ann Peters from the Park City Board of Education, was inspired to run by her 3 grandkids who attended Park City schools, as well as her son, a teacher. She says, I've been to all kinds of activities and I've seen all the things that have gone on. I've been to board meetings. After she noticed the difficulties her grandkids went through, she said she spoke to the mayor in an effort to better understand the role of the board. Since then, she said she looked for ways to help. It wasn't until now, however, that she was ready to run for the school board. Her kids are stable, her young dog is trained, and her retirement has left her with the time she feels is necessary for the position. She says you've really got to be devoted, I think, to listen and participate. If elected, she wants to improve 3 things: communication, alignment of goals, and empowerment. She says the communication has been blunted. I don't want to be critical of the people that have worked so hard to improve things. It has improved over time, but there's much more that can be done. She says when her granddaughter or son have received awards, she said she received very little notice. She says it's lucky that I'm retired that I can drop everything and drive over. The internal communication hasn't always been good. Throughout the community, she said she's also heard many complaints about the district's external communications informing the community of things like its project to clean toxic soil off school grounds. She says it's gotten much better with the website, but I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. This really has to be a priority. Speaking her thoughts about the district's goals and strategies, she mentioned how Tuesday school board meetings included several nice presentations. But a nice presentation doesn't show good alignment and coordination of goals and the strategy between departments, she said. I think that area could be strengthened considerably. Having worked as a nurse and taught at nursing school at the University of Wisconsin and the University of Texas, Goldman emphasized how her career has instilled the importance of goals. She says, we've set a goal for the cardiovascular program, both where I worked in Seattle and Los Angeles, and here at Intermountain, where patients who've had heart attacks, for example, would be treated within minutes. It would change every year, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Everybody in the team knew what the goal was. With everybody on board, the team developed specific strategies. That's what they focused on. Alignment of goals is critical, and I think there's much better work that needs to be done. So I want to say congratulations for her for running for school board. But I also want to say this is important because as nurses, we have skills. We have a unique skill set that can translate into other areas in the marketplace, in our communities. So we need to tap into those skills. And that's why I'm always a big proponent of using those nursing skills and creative ways to enhance your environment and what you're doing for others. There's so much we can do good for our society and capitalize on the fact that we're still number 1 on the Gallup poll of most trusted profession. And so I think that's wonderful. And I will encourage more nurses to go into public service. All right. I want to talk about this nurse, and I found this interesting. And I just happened on this article today. And this is how Brooklyn artist Siobhan Paul juggles nursing and art. And very beautiful woman, and her art is just beautiful. And so let me see here. I'm going to see if I can show you the picture. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to share this screen real quick. And she's beautiful, lovely smile. But I wanted you to see her art, and this is why I'm doing it. Okay, so Siobhan Paul works as a nurse practitioner. She's also, in her spare time, works as an artist. This is one of her pieces here. She has a ceramic studio in Brooklyn, and she's showing in Harlem. And by the way, I'd love to have her on the other show, and the Nurse Shark Academy show, because I think this is wonderful. As an artist, I want to definitely see her work. But this is a nice photo. It says for the past 2 years, Paul's been working on her royalty series, which consists of two large paintings of a king and queen, as well as a collection of ceramic crowns. Paul said the intention of the series is to celebrate the beauty of Blackness. The positive response inspired Paul to keep going, and she is currently creating a throne for the series. So I think that's wonderful. She's another nurse making a difference out there and doing it in a different way. And so I wanted to share that with you. Our next story comes from about a nursing student, actually. And actually, we have two stories about nursing students. So I want to get to this one, and then we'll get to the next one. This one is called Withered Flowers. A Yukon nursing student travels 3,000 miles to document an epidemic of underage pregnancy. So I want to share this with you. I thought this, anytime nursing students or nurses are doing something, I want to celebrate that. So it says Kimberly Rosado, who graduates in nursing this year, has never taken a filmmaking class. She says she's never been great at talking to people, and she doesn't enjoy public speaking. About a year ago, she didn't know much about professional cameras or audio recording. She'd only ever made small social media videos for fun. But none of that stopped Rosado from traveling more than 3,000 miles away from home to make a feature-length documentary film in two languages in a different country, and all on her own with support from a network at UConn through the pioneering program aimed at cultivating courageous leadership in young women. She says, it's just amazing how much I could have accomplished throughout this process. She says she learned that she wanted to pursue nursing and that she started working as a medical assistant after graduating before applying to UConn School of Nursing. Rosado, whose family is from Guatemala and Mexico, has known for some time that as a nurse, she wants to help women. Growing up, she saw within her own family how women like her mother and grandmother, who didn't receive formal sexual and reproductive health education in school, often didn't know or understand what they were experiencing with their own bodies. She says in Guatemala, a lot of women don't really like to talk about what's happening with them. I just did a ton of research on things that are happening in Guatemala with sexual and reproductive health, and I found that they are having an epidemic of underage pregnancy. So between January and August of 2023, the Observatory for Sexual and Reproductive Rights, or OSAR, in Guatemala reported 3,331 pregnancies of adolescents and girls ages 10 to 19 years old, including 1,589 in girls from ages 10 to 14. Under the country's law, pregnancies in girls under age of 14 are considered the result of sexual violence. Human rights and healthcare advocates attribute the epidemic to a number of factors, including social and religious stigma, sexual violence and assault, lack of accessibility to healthcare and contraceptives, lack of comprehensive education, and a patriarchal culture of machismo attitudes and norms in the country. For Rosado, learning about the challenges women and adolescents and young girls face in Guatemala, where some of her family members still live, felt personal, and she found support for her efforts to raise awareness about the challenges through the Bold Women's Leadership Network. UConn's Bold program focuses on facilitating opportunities for women's leadership on campus through funding, programming, and engagement in service projects. Once accepted into the Bold through a competitive application process, scholars in Bold cohorts are given funding and support to initiate their own individual student-led projects. They find a mentor and work to refine and execute their project, which is largely implemented during the summer between their junior and senior years. So her roommate, they both were accepted. Rosado and her roommate were both accepted. And so her roommate is a photography major. And so she's really great with this cameras and stuff, as she says. So she actually helped me along the way. At the beginning of our junior year, the fall semester was just brainstorming ideas of what we wanted our project to be. And I was struggling to figure out how I was going to present the project. I'm not great with public speaking. I'm not great with talking to people. So I was like, you know what? Let me just put in a documentary and let it speak for itself. So I want to say congratulations to her with this documentary. Nurses are doing such great things. Doing such great things. So there's more to this story. I can't read it all, but if you want to read it, go to UConn's website and you can certainly get that. But this is another nurse making a difference. I love this. And then this one is I love this. This is from Emory. It's called the Emory Wheel, and this is so great. I like to show these pictures, and I probably should have shown the last picture too, but I like to show them some of these pictures. But this is a young lady who is the youngest nursing admit, discusses ambition, and finds community. So it's surrounded by white coats and dissection forceps. Faith Mason discovered her interest in healthcare as a middle schooler in the University of Georgia's mini medical summer camp program. What Mason didn't know then, however, was just how far her aspirations would take her. Mason was accepted into Emory University's Neil Hodgson Woodruff School of Nursing at just 17 years old after beginning her undergraduate education at Emory University College of Arts and Sciences at age 16. Faith will be starting at the nursing school this fall on the path to becoming a registered nurse. She is also taking pre-med classes at Emory College of Arts and Science as she hopes to attend medical school after finishing nursing school. Her ultimate goal is to become a pediatric oncologist. Growing up with such big ambitions as a young age was not easy. Mason was already ahead of her peers at 5 years old after completing pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade in just 1.5 years. At just 12 years old, Mason entered high school. The 2-year age difference that separated Mason from her peers was already quite noticeable. Even more so, Mason said, when she wanted to take classes that were meant for high school upperclassmen. She said it was really scary because I was this little 12-year-old girl who really wanted to do what I was doing, but it was still so intimidating. Mason says she felt a distinct isolation from her classmates, recalling still enjoying Disney Channel, where her classmates discussed shows like Grey's Anatomy and How to Get Away with Murder. It was really, really hard for me to try and bridge the gap and have other connections outside of, oh, we're in the same class, let's do a group project. It was something that I struggled with up until the beginning of my senior year. While trying to overcome these hardships, Mason said that her mother became a rock. She enrolled Mason in after-school programs and summer camps with kids her own age and always motivated her to try hardest in school. Growing up with a single mom, Mason recognized the challenges for both herself and her mother. So Mason is now a sophomore at Emory College and an admit to the nursing school. She has maintained a self-driven motivation to achieve her goals. According to Assistant Dean of Admissions, Katie Kennedy, it's more rare to see a student as involved as Faith is at this level, being a college sophomore, and especially that she is the age that she is. I think it really speaks to her determination and motivation in life. So I want to say congratulations to her. If you want to read more of her story, head on over to the webpage on Emory. All right. And then lastly, our last story for today, I definitely want to give this up. This is from the Patriot Ledger. This is our nurse making a difference. This is about 99-year-old Betty Beecher, who received the Nightingale Award. So 99-year-old Betty Beecher was overwhelmed to receive a Nightingale pin honoring her 40 years of service as a nurse. And the timing was perfect. She was here to enjoy it. Traditionally, Nightingale tributes have been presented annually by the American Nurses Association to the families of deceased or fallen nurses at their graves. The NVNA and Hospice in Norwell, which has cared for a number of nurses at the end of their careers, recently introduced a new approach, honoring nurses with a Nightingale pin while they are still alive. The pin is named after Florence Nightingale, the founder of modern nursing. Beecher is one of the Norwell Agency's first recipients. Their message to Betty: be proud of the work you have done, the person you are, and the difference you've made. I'd much rather have it when I can enjoy it, Beecher, who is in hospice care, said. Her Nightingale ceremony was held January 13th by the NVNA at the Faring Way Retirement Community, where she has lived since 2016. It was just so awesome, she said, describing how moved she was to see her 1946 nurse's cap and cape from the former Massachusetts Memorial Hospital in Boston on the podium at her presentation. I felt so proud of my accomplishments as they recounted by NVNA and hospice nurses. The whole history was right here. It all flashed through my mind, and it was very touching from beginning to end. I was almost in tears. At age 19 in 1943, Beecher was in the first class of the U.S. Cadet Nurse Corps, student nurses who took accelerated training and then staffed the nation's civilian and military hospitals during World War II. With a severe nursing shortage on the home front, they were committed to serve until the end of the war. After the war ended, Beecher remained at the Staten Island Marine Hospital for 2 years and then went to work for the U.S. Public Health Administration at the U.S. Marine Hospital in Brighton. She met her late husband, Harry, there and left the hospital in 1960 to have her two children in 1961 and 1963. She later became a nurse in Braintree schools for several years and finished her career at Armstrong World Industries in Braintree for 8 years, retiring in 1982. I love nursing, Beecher said Friday in her apartment at Farring Way. She had just finished looking through photographs from her nursing career and watched a video that her granddaughter, Nicole Orsini, 25 of Boston, made at her Nightingale ceremony. Orsini is a graduate of Boston University with a major in film and works for Northern Light Productions in Austin. The NVNA gave Beecher a Nightingale lapel pin in the shape of a lamp, symbolizing the oil lamps that nurses once carried to reach their patients at night. Pinning ceremonies are a time-honored tradition at many nursing schools and a way of thanking nurses for their service. Beecher, who has lung disease and is on oxygen, came under NVNA's care last year. Her nurses had begun questioning the tradition of waiting until nurses had died to honor them with a Nightingale tribute. The NVNA told Beecher they wanted to remind nurses who sometimes find it difficult to accept care of themselves that they deserve the same care they had given to others. Cindy Getman, a hospice nurse and Beecher's case manager at NVNA and hospice, spoke at the ceremony about Beecher's career. After Beecher graduated in 1942 from Rockland High School, Getman said, she began a journey of passion, persistence, and perseverance. In 1943, she began her nursing training at Massachusetts Memorial Hospital School of Nursing in Boston. And so, according to Beecher's daughter, Susan Arini of Taunton, and her son Mark of Braintree were at the ceremony, along with Nicole Orsini. Nicole said, "My grandmother is an inspiring lady, and she has done a lot with her life. It is nice to see her recognized for what she has done and to hear how she served her country." After she retired, Beecher worked diligently with other nurses for more than a decade to win more recognition of the role that cadet nurses played in World War II. In her 90s, she made several trips into Boston to locate written records of the Cadet Nurse Corps nurses in the Boston University History of Nursing archives. She said, "There wasn't any part of nursing I didn't enjoy. I was happiest when I was at work." So I just want to say congratulations to her. She is our nurse making a difference. All right, that ends all of our news segment for today. And I just want to talk to you about some exciting things that are coming up. One of the things that will be coming up will be our adding a new section, and we're going to do a new workshop for nurses on documentation. We'll be doing that. I will be having some things come up that you'll see in the new year. So I'm excited. Just stay tuned on the Nurse Shark Academy pages and on the Baxter Professional Services page for all the offerings that we have. I want to thank you for coming in, and have a good evening. And I'll see you next week.